Hello, everybody. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your holiday to join us today from wherever you are. Will you just hop into the comments and let us know that you're here, that you can see us and hear us, where you're joining from so that we can see that? That'd be fantastic. I have two wonderful people with me. So you might recognize my face because I've been very busy and trying to help save this, but we have an amazing team and I am not alone. So I'm Rebekah Allen Jones. I'm A.A. Allen's great granddaughter, and I'm the president of the Miracle Valley Oasis Center. And over here we have Paul Allen, who is Paul Asa Allen. He is the namesake son of A.A. Allen and my great uncle. A barrel of laughs and a very tender-hearted, wonderful person that I am very pleased to say is in my family. And so I'm really glad that he can be here.
I'm very, very glad to be here. And I am the fourth and final child of the Lexi Allen, A. Allen family, and the one that was named after my dad.
That's true. So if everybody can hear him okay, just let me know. We'll have him speak up if the volume isn't quite right. But I think you should be able to. Over here is my very best friend and husband, Dan Jones, and he has come with me from England. You'll catch his accent is definitely not from these parts, and he is not Australian, guys. He's British, even though his accent sounds Australian.
Hello there. It's great to be here today, and looking forward to this whole session going down and seeing what God's going to do through it.
Yes, we have such a lot of great questions that have come in that we've tried to capture. So we really appreciate you guys being interested and spending time with us. And I just don't want to take advantage of the fact that you may or may not know what's going on. You might just think there's a Q&A with some fun people and want to hang out with us. That's fantastic. So we want to kind of explain to you what we're trying to do here. And Dan's going to help us sort of navigate. Once I've gotten everybody settled in, he's going to help us navigate questions and all of that. So be sure to pop them into the comment section. You can see that live chat going. We can see all of that, and Dan will be, looking at comments as well. So you'll see him busy doing that, and so we can keep track of everything that is important to you guys. So what I should say is that the three of us are here representing Miracle Valley Oasis Center, and it is not just the three of us. So if you want, you can see all of us. You can go to miraclevalley.oasiscenter.org and make your way to the Who page, and right there you'll be able to see all of our team. So my dad, who is A.A. Allen's firstborn grandchild and grandson, is Steve Allen. He is on our board as well as Dan and I. And then we have advisors, like amazing people like this guy here, and Brianna and Eric. They're advising us on a number of things, from history to finance and construction, HR, business, all of those types of things, because we just know that this is not the sort of thing that you do with a few people. If we're going to do this, we got to do it in a scale that means that we bring in people who know what they're doing in all aspects of what we're doing. And so that's who we are. We put this together for a reason. So there is some history, and I think we could probably give you a minute to describe your dad to us a little bit and who he was, because this property we're interested in is connected to what his dad, A. Allen, was doing in the 50s and 60s.
Well, my dad was categorized as the leading Pentecostal evangelist in the world during the time he was at the peak of his ministry. He from what we've been told, not by people that work for Daddy, but by the police and the authorities in the countries where we went, that he was the first preacher to ever have in excess of 1 million people in one service, and that was in India. And people came from all over the world to Miracle Valley to come to the camp meetings and things like that. He was written up in almost every major newspaper in the United States, and we were the first preacher to ever have a regularly scheduled TV program on every week. Other preachers had specials where they would be on TV. Both Oral Roberts and Billy Graham did that. But Daddy was the first one to ever have a regularly weekly scheduled program every week, and kind of set the bar high for other people to try to match.
I remember you telling me about how they did that logistically. I think everyone would find that so fascinating.
We would shoot the film wherever, say in Los Angeles maybe. After the meeting was over for that night, they'd package that up. We'd take it to the airport, go to American Airlines. We'd take it to the counter, to the ticket counter, not to a freight office, but to the ticket counter. And we had an arrangement with them to where we would give them the package. They would hold it at the counter. The pilot of the next plane that was flying from Los Angeles to Dallas would stop by the desk, pick up those packages, hand carry them to the ticket counter in Dallas. Usually me, but somebody would go to the Love Field in downtown Dallas, go to the ticket counter, pick that up, take it out to the office. We'd get the film processed, developed, start editing it. By the middle of the week, we'd be ready to send it back out to all the cities. And we had TV stations in every major market in the country. And by Friday afternoon or Saturday morning, it would be on an airplane where the pilot would stop at the desk, pick up the package, hand carry it to the city, say Miami, drop it off at the ticket counter. Somebody from the TV station would go to the ticket counter, pick that up, take it to the TV station, and play it on Sunday morning.
It's so amazing to think that.
In 1 week's turnaround, the program that had been filmed a week earlier would be being played on air in every major city in the country. There wasn't any of this microwave type technology. You didn't have, that wasn't an option.
To think that was cutting edge technology of the time.
It is also the pattern that the people that put together FedEx and UPS ended up using what we had learned the hard way in order to set up the delivery services that are commonly used by everybody all over the world.
It's amazing.
So we had a lot of people with a lot of brains and a lot of vision, and listened to God a whole lot.
And one of the things that is so amazing, so one of the things that we're going to talk about here today and answer questions about is the property down in Miracle Valley that was established. So we'll get into the history of it a little bit later. If you'd like to hear a little bit more from Paul about that, then just stick with us, and remember that this is being recorded. So Dan, if you want to make sure that you're keeping track of any questions and getting them logged, then I'll leave you with that. I can see everybody's asking questions and saying hello. So it's really good to see you guys. Hi, Jack and Rachel and Bonnie. I know. Michelle. We've got a few people. It's a little difficult for me to see that far.
Just welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. Thanks for putting your name in the comments and where you're joining us from. It's great. Hi, John.
So we've got a big a bunch of chat here on the side of the screen.
We can see the hearts coming in as well, so thanks for the hearts.
Very tiny.
I can see.
I just want to just encourage you, if you haven't yet, to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on anything in the future. Even subscribe to our emails. That's a great way to stay in touch.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a really unique opportunity. So A.A. Allen, he actually, in 1957, acquired some property, which is through a wonderful donation and an agreement to sell, ended up with quite a substantial amount of land, which was what, 2,400 acres?
2,400 acres.
That's right. So 2,400 acres right between Sierra Vista and Bisbee on Highway 92 in Arizona.
The back of the property was 3 miles north of the Mexican border.
So we're talking super close to Mexico, and excellent for ministry purposes into Mexico. So what's so special about this property is that this is really where A.A. Allen's ministry went from being something that was an incredible ministry to being really, it helped support the vision that God had given him to help change the world. And he did it in a number of different ways. And one of those ways was really pushing back on all of the issues that were going on with civil rights at the time. And before Martin Luther King Jr. was going up and sharing his vision and dream, my great grandpa was for a good, many years going, when it was completely illegal, pitching a tent across America and saying, I'm not segregating. I'm not doing it. You can't make me. And that was a really amazing thing. But when they got the Miracle Valley property, he was able to pump out a good 55 million pieces of literature every year to try and help not only support change in America, but also in the hearts of people by being an evangelist who was praying for the sick and seeing people delivered. Just incredible things going on. So really, really good stuff going on in the history. But what we find is that this property is actually a really special piece of history. It's been through some really tough times. There's been people who have tried their best to maintain the property since he passed away in 1970. Not all of them have managed to do it to a standard that everybody is thrilled with, but I think everybody's done their best and tried. And we're at this place now where it needs a lot of TLC. And the property was taken last year for back taxes to the tune of about $572,000. And that it needed to be paid off. It wasn't, so they took the property from the previous owner. And what now is the case is that the state is getting ready to auction the property. They've given a date, a very short turnaround amount of time. And we've really succeeded earlier this year in a few things. They were going to demolish the buildings, and our team, along with some wonderful friends, we were able to force the county to not demolish the buildings, which is fantastic. And some might ask, why do we care? Like, why would we bother with buildings that are falling apart? You can see, I can see his mind worrying.
Well, my wonderful niece, and a whole lot of her very close friends spent countless hours going through stacks of record books that are, this wide and about that long and that thick, that go back all the way to the days of the shootout in Tombstone between the Earps and the Clintons. And every piece of property that's ever been transferred or logged or anything that you want to have, if you want to have your marriage written in the official record of Cochise County, that building is where you go to you mail it to them, they log it down. Yeah. And the census people 100 years from now can go in there and say, oh, here's what happened on this day.
Yeah.
But Rebekah and her friends and the people that have volunteered to spend countless hours going through sheet by sheet by sheet, following the path of this piece of property from the time it was homesteaded until now, and finding all kinds of things about it that make it literally an incredible historic piece of property.
Really? Yes. Yeah.
Definitely.
It's been really, really fascinating I know as a historian, I've always been fascinated by revival history. Christian revival history has been a focus that, my husband and I actually own revivalhistory.com, and we have for decades. We love it. We love everything about learning about what God's done in the past, because it gives us an opportunity to learn from those who have gone before us so that we can actually grow in our understanding. And we are really in a place now where I know we've talked about so much, and we've really poured ourselves into helping stop the county from making a really bad decision to demolish these buildings, because it doesn't matter if these buildings are not in good place. The truth of the matter is my grandpa was integrally involved in helping to build all of these buildings. He taught my dad. I'm surrounded by construction people in my family. We've flipped houses. We've fixed up properties. We've built properties. I grew up in the rafters of buildings and on, construction sites. We all have done this for many years, and we're not daunted by the state of the property at this time. And we know that it can be fixed and it is worth saving, but not because we have nostalgia for the past. It's because it's very clear that God has put on our hearts something for the future, hasn't it? There's been prophetic words that have been spoken over many in our team. And we have really felt that this is a time. So I went to see my Uncle Paul in December last year, and God directed our conversation. So we actually are having a conversation. My Uncle Paul is one of the best storytellers that I know. And he waited until I'd been speaking with him for 4 hours before he told me that the property was owned by the state. And it was so funny. I said to him, really? And he said, yeah, maybe you should go have a look. And so I did. And when I went down to have a look at this property that I hadn't seen, Dan and I had gone in 2006, 2007.
2007,
yeah. And God had really spoken to our hearts when we were there. And then when we go, I went down to see Paul from England, where Dan and I were living, and we felt like maybe I should go visit. So I went to visit, and it just really was not expecting God to say so clearly to me, it's time to take the land and recover all. That's what he said to me. Time to take the land and recover all. And I said, okay. So I went back and talked to the family, and we said, let's do this. We did not expect this, but we are not in this for the excitement of the moment. And we are not here to, bring up the past. We're here because God put something on our hearts. And as a family, we know what it looks like to be obedient to the word of God. When God speaks something, we take action. We've always done that for generations, as is well documented in my great-grandpa's life. It's very important to us. And, Dan even had a prophetic word over him long before, so we used to shoot the breeze about, wouldn't it be great to do such and such with that property if it was ever owned by us? But we were, shooting the breeze and talking about stuff. But little did we know, God was actually birthing something in our hearts. And there would come a time where he would say, it's time to activate that. And that's what it feels like, You need to tell them about that prophetic word that you had?
So it was just in the summer of 2007, after I'd come back from living in America, where I met Rebekah, and in a meeting in England, I was called out from the crowd in the meeting, and a visiting prophet from Canada declared over me that God was going to give me territory and land to form an apostolic training resource center. And at the time, it was kind of like one of those prophetic words, like, wow, this is like so mad. This is crazy on a crazy scale. And it went on for quite a long time. It was quite detailed, actually.
Yeah.
And even in the timing of it, he said it's going to be in the not too distant, it's going to be in the near future. And I was like, okay, so the near future, we're talking like, a few weeks, few months, few years. Anyway, here we are, 17 years later, and we're on the verge of being able to take possession and really begin to steward a property that's ripe for revival to come back into the land and to breathe forth kingdom purpose again across this nation and around the world. So we're really excited, and we feel like God's given us an amazing vision for this property, and it's got kind of so multi kind of like faceted, and there's so many kind of exciting kind of avenues that we feel like God's kind of put on our heart to deliver here. And did you want to talk a little bit about that now, or do you want to get into talking specifically?
I know
about the
we've
property?
got a few like key questions and things that we want to dig into for you
track
guys.
Of the questions
and we want to value your time as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think this has been a long time coming for all of us to get here. But my husband and I have been living in England, and we've just barely gotten our, we've been here for just several weeks now, that we've actually moved to Arizona from England because God put it on our heart about 3 years ago. And he said, you need to move to America. You need to get on this. So we got a visa for him, started really pushing towards what we felt God was saying. And he didn't give us any indication as to what we were supposed to be doing. And it all lined up. His visa was released right as this was going on. And I came for 6 weeks to help stop the demolition. The demolition's been stopped. They've not harmed the property at all. It's now going to auction. And that leads us to a really great place where we need to partner with you and ask you to join us. And we know that this is a tender one because there's been, such a desire to see this property thrive. And there's been times where people have really hoped for things and not seen that take place, but people have done their best. And I believe that everybody has tried their best. And why are we going to succeed? Because God put it on our hearts and he's brought a team together. There is a great quality group of people. And there's a few things very specifically that are going on here. But if I can just mention 3 really key things that will help bring some context to this. Firstly, we're very serious. Dan and I have moved country, and that should say something. So we're now here. And one of the things that we've done as a team is, which is our announcement that I made a comment about in email that would be happening, is that we have actually already purchased property in Miracle Valley across the highway. We now own property that is sitting right up against the property that was A. Allen's house, his personal house that was built by my grandpa, James Allen. That property, there's 3/4 of an acre there, and it's 3 lots, and we can actually turn that into 1 to 3 residences. It's a bare land at the moment, and it's a beautiful piece of property overlooking the mountains, and it's right in the community. So Dan, I know we've been talking as a team about what the vision for this property is. Do you want to share about
so
that?
Just briefly, it's going to be a place where volunteers, ministers, and also workers will be able to come and stay while we rebuild the property, because there's going to need to be a lot of work going into that. But we felt led to actually go ahead and purchase property in the area so that we could also have residences for people to come and stay at, but then it would also be in the heart of the community. And so that it would be really not just a sense of the Bible college or the training center being over the road. We really want to be part of the community there.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a location where visitors, ministers, volunteers, workers, they're going to come to actually help restore the property. There will be accommodation for them.
Yeah. And just to clarify, this is not something that the ministry purchased in order for Dan and I to have a place to live. That's not the purpose of this. If there's a chance in the in the future that we end up there, so be it. But that's really not the purpose here. What we're trying to accomplish is create space for our team, whomever that may be, and workers and volunteers, and everybody has a way to be involved in the community and be a part of that. And also, there's another aspect to this. We're in the process of asking God for something that's really big, which is a piece of property that we really feel like He's put on our hearts. And the Bible's really clear that wherever we, where our feet tread, that He will give us the land. And we've actually, we listened to a message some years ago where a pastor had been talking about how he had helped his children. He and his wife had helped his children all buy property and own property in the city that they felt that they were called to as a family to reach for God. And they said, we knew that in order to take the land, we needed to own land in that place. And this was part of the spiritual strategy of saying, yes, we love this place. We want to sow into this place, and we are committed. And so we want you guys to know that we are committed and we love this community. And, it's a major part of our family life. It has been a long time. And you'd probably live in Miracle Valley if you had the opportunity, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's a place that we love very much. So we need to partner with you in order to go ahead and go across the way to the other side of the highway, where it is the Bible College. Now, as we were talking about earlier, A. Allen, if he were sitting here with us, would be saying that is not a Bible college because everybody now calls it Miracle Valley Bible College, but it actually was
Miracle Valley Training Center.
That's right. It was a training center. So we're not, trying to hold on to what it should be. But I think this is an important distinction, that what he was trying to create was a place for people to be trained and equipped and to go out and reach people with the gospel. And so that can look different ways.
And I think this is a good sort of segue into you and everyone discussing a bit more about the property itself and what's included, what's not included. And I know there's some questions coming in, and I'm sort of mentally keeping a track of, what those questions are. So thank you very much, everyone who's asking questions.
Yes.
But why don't we kind of skim over some of the items that are going to be included and not included to try and set the record straight here a little bit?
Yes. So there's a few people who, now let's remember that this was 2,400 acres. So at one point, everything was included. Right now, everything is not included. It's a different set of parcels because things have been parceled out and sold in pieces over the decades. And right now we're looking at 37.68 acres. And thank you. Can I just say thank you so much, because some of this information is right off the top of my head, but some of this is because we have an amazing crew of volunteers who are helping us to pull all of this information together. We could not do it without you. Mm-hmm. So thank you, especially to Kim and Christy. I know you guys have done some paperwork. Tiffany, Brianna, so many of you have done some amazing amounts of help for this. So we just really appreciate it. And want you guys to know that those of you who are calling in and offering to volunteer, we have so much help coming. The Bible talks about the laborers being few. We do not have that problem. And I am so grateful that the laborers are many, but we need to, find the right timing for everybody to be involved. And we're so grateful for that. So this property, the information that we're aware of is that so the cemetery is actually not included. This is where A. Allen and Lexi Allen and many of the Allen family members, as well as community members and people who were a part of the revival, they've all been buried there in Miracle Valley. It's the Miracle Valley Cemetery. That cemetery is not in the same parcel that's being sold. This parcel of 37.68 acres was 5 parcels that have been brought together, and the county have actually cleared everything up in the title, in all of it, and they're selling this without all of the complications of previous permitting and previous title stuff. All of it's been cleaned. All of it's been parceled together, and it will be the cleanest look at that property to purchase it now than it has been in a very long time. It means that anybody who tries to put in a septic system, because that will be needed, the septic system was a real problem for previous people because there was no ability to put a septic system in when you have to cross property lines, which is necessary on this. So now the property lines are gone because it's one parcel. So there's some really good things that are happening as a result of this. So no cemetery involved. There is a lot of misconceptions about a well. There's a really big well that was prophesied about. That's actually owned by the neighbors across the way, and it is. They're actually ambassadors for our team and are wonderful people, but they're the ones that own that large well that's been talked about, and the well that is on the property will very well service everything that's there. So there is a well, there's water, and it is capable of servicing that land, but it's not the huge well. So anybody that thinks that they're buying at auction some sort of major water resource is misinformed, because this is not it. And the aquifer does not actually run under this property. It runs elsewhere. And there's a good water table because the aquifer is nearby, but it's not actually running directly under the property. Do you want to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm seeing some of the questions and comments coming through, and they're really exciting. Can you make sure that you send us a message through our website as well? Because we'd love to connect with everyone who's messaging on here. Super amazing reading some of the stories that family members have about being connected with the ministry down there and what God was doing. But yeah, please do send us a message, because we'd love to connect with you in more detail.
And you can do that at hello@miraclevalley.org.
Or you can go on the website and you can click on contact and then fill out the form, and then we'll get that message, and then we will respond to it.
Yeah, we would love to have that. Thank you so much for doing that.
Definitely.
So there is 11
key buildings,
key historic buildings that are there. There's 2,500 seat auditorium. I'm saying 2,500. They used to fit 3,000 people into there, but I think permitting's a little different these days. So we're saying 2,500 plus based on our understanding of what would be allowable in that space. And that includes the prayer tower. And then there's the cafeteria, which we would love to see be a restaurant and coffee shop that services more than just those who are there to stay on the site. And we've got dorms. There's a boys and girls dorm. That's probably where the most work is needed, because they have had a lot of work done, but the overall spacing can be looked after. It's just a matter of what we want to do is preserve what we can, and then work with the original features as best as we can. And we'll talk about preservation a little bit. I know there's been some questions about that as well. So our screen is a little far away from us. So if you see us staring into the screen, thanks for your patience with us. So dorms, there's a boys and a girls dorm. And thanks, Dan, for your help. There is an apartment that was for married couples. Is there five?
Yes, I think there's 5 or 6 apartments.
Yes.
In a row that starts at the end of the main church building, about 100 feet away from it, and then runs down to where the office building was.
And the pool of Bethesda, which it was known as the healing rooms, that it is right in that area next to the Tabernacle Church building as well. And that is it's still there. There's classrooms, there's a study hall / library. So there's lots of meeting spaces, and there's dormitories. And you can see where we're going with this. We have a real desire to see this be a retreat and conference center that, it serves a couple of purposes. This can actually be financially viable to sustain, but we can actually use it specifically to equip people, to train people, and let people come and encounter God and be transformed by Him, and sit with our friends in the restaurant or coffee shop and get business ideas, and go and bring economy to the region. And transform each other's lives and go and minister and, come and do,
Yeah.
Mission school, and then go and do ministry right over the way. It's so close. It's 3 miles.
I think as well, ultimately, we want the property to be a resource to, Arizona, New Mexico, North America. We want to bring life, and we want to bring people back to this area and have them use the facilities and feel like they're a part of what God has done here, and they can learn about everything that God did through A. Allen. And even before A. Allen was there was a major move of God that happened in the region. And so we want to bring, this space to life again. And we want to see people coming down, churches, from Phoenix, Tucson, and further afield. This will be a space for all of them to come to and utilize.
And also, I just want to say, it's important for you guys to know that should we be successful, there is nothing more that matters to us than loving the people around us. And that means that we would really care deeply about the neighbors. And, we don't want to just try and bring tons of economy and change the nature of this wonderful community. We want to actually be mindful of what we're doing, but also create a hub that everybody in the community can really enjoy. Like we said to some friends the other day, how fun would it be to have a Christmas party for the community, and to see some of the proceeds of what we're doing be able to go back into the community, to see it be improved, and to look after this community, and to love it with Jesus, and also to just be, the hands and feet of Jesus in a practical way.
Yeah, I think that's good. So where are we at currently? That's a good question, I suppose. That's a good question. Where are we at currently?
When the United States first came into being, the way communities were formed was they would come in, kind of cut out the trees so they'd have line of sight to protect themselves. They'd build a church, and they'd build a community around a church. I believe, and my parents believed, that the church should be the center of every community. And that is, in fact, the exact thing that we'd like to have this be for the San Pedro River Valley, which is the river about 3 miles down the road from Miracle Valley.
Yeah.
And it's the river that is actually starts in Mexico and runs into the United States. What we were always told in school is that it's the only river that runs from Mexico to the United States. And that's true in that it's the only river that the headwaters are in Mexico. There's another river that comes in and runs through Tucson, but the headwaters of it are in the United States. It runs into Mexico and then turns and comes back. But the San Pedro is the one river that starts in Mexico and finishes in the United States.
And this community is, it's a place that has been quiet for quite some time, but I feel like it would just really rip the soul out of the community to get rid of this property. And we have a moment now where we can actually save and purchase it. And for those who have asked, what is your vision and what are you trying to do? I would really encourage you. Dan can put a link to the vision page. If you haven't checked it out, it was the first thing that I mentioned in the chat at the very beginning. And I really encourage you to check out that vision page on our website on miraclevalleyOasisCenter.org. You can go on there and actually click on the vision page, but then just keep scrolling, because what you're going to get to is a couple of really interesting things. There's a PDF that's been embedded on there. This is a file that has 28 pages of documentation. We've put this together. It's a presentation that really helps you understand all the things. It's everything to do with our plans, and it really gives you a good close look at things. We've also got all of that information just right there on the page. You can see sort of a render of what we're looking at that we would like to do with the property, and different things like that. So you can see visually some of the things that we'd like to accomplish. And so I won't go into great detail with us today on that, because we want to let you have your evening and just go and check that out, because it really will give you a good indicator. As you get towards the bottom of the page, there is a restoration timeline. Now, if we get all the money that we need when we need it, then this is the timeline. So as funds come in, that might change the timeline, but we are really seeing God do great things as we raise funds. We're seeing it come in, we're seeing it pour in. And so please partner with us in that. Let's have faith together. I know that's something that your dad was real good at doing, is helping people understand faith.
Well, when people ask me what was so unique about your dad and his ministry, and what I always tell them is that he had the ability to explain faith in a way that you could not help but understand it, and increase your faith and increase your ability to believe in what God was going to do for you.
Yeah, and he operated in a level of faith that many have never been able to experience. I know if you've watched on YouTube, if you search A.A. Allen and you watch one of his videos, you'll see him just, declare healing over somebody and then just pull him out of a stretcher, because he just knows that God is with him and he's doing something. He doesn't question, like, God, are you going to do this thing?
Well, up until this point, I have had on my webpage about 60 of the old TV programs that people could order.
Yeah.
And I have just acquired about 350 more. Mm-hmm. Now, some of those will be duplicates of what I already had. Mm-hmm. And I've just got them transferred from videotape to DVD. And within hopefully the next week or two, I've been saying that for 2 months, but hopefully within the next few days, literally get started sorting them out and finding out exactly how many I have. But it's probably going to be around 400 of the old TV programs.
So amazing.
Those were shot in live services. Mm-hmm. People being healed, people would literally walk across the ramp and be prayed for, and it'd be found right then and there. Not like things you see by some of the modern day televangelists, where they will meet with the sick people in a back room somewhere and bring one or two out and have them testify. Mm. This is live action, what happens on the spot, and cannot help but build faith and create an atmosphere where people allow God to do what he tells them he wants to do. The Bible says, I would that you prosper and be in health. Mm-hmm. Our finances and our health are what is important to God. My dad believed that. I believe that. I was told about 4 years ago that I wasn't going to live through the week. The doctors in the VA hospital called one of my boys and told him if he wanted to tell his dad goodbye, he needed to do it within the next day or two, because I wasn't going to make it till the end of the week.
Yeah.
And they gave me a big walker that they said I'd never be able to walk across the room without it. I gave that to a friend of mine that needed it a whole lot worse than I do.
Is God dramatically heals you?
Yes. Matter of fact, at that time I was diagnosed with extreme diabetes. My A1C was 15.6 or 15.7. And when I had my last physical in February this year, we talked for a little bit. I'd gone to the Philippines at Thanksgiving and got my toenail ripped off. And
thank you for telling us that.
Well, that's part of what happened. But it came back, and when I had my physical, the doctor had my foot in his lap, and he was rubbing my toe and does that hurt? Does that push her on? And no, it tingles, but it doesn't hurt. And he said, well, Paul, I've got some news for you. No, Paul, I've got some good news for you, is what he said. And I thought he was going to say, and I've got bad news. Which do you want first? But he didn't. He just said, I've got some good news for you. And I said, and? He said, you no longer have diabetes. And I said, would you repeat that? He said, Paul, you have no sign of diabetes in your body, period.
Come on, Jesus.
And I said, I always heard that once you have diabetes, you've got it forever, even if you get under control and don't have to take medicine and all this stuff.
Yeah.
He said, I've told every patient I've ever had that. He said, you are the exception. What did you do different than what every other patient I've ever had has done? And I said, I prayed for it, and I'm on about 1,000 people's prayer list that pray for me every single day. And he said, well, does that work? And I leaned forward, looked him right in the eye, and I said, Doctor, do I have diabetes? And he said, no, you don't. I said, would my toenail be totally healing up the way it is? There was no open wound. It was all healed up like skin. And now the new toenail is growing out. I said, would my toenail have healed up like it has if I had diabetes like I had it? He said, no, it wouldn't have. You'd have probably had to have that toe amputated.
Yeah.
And a week to the day after that, I had an appointment with the cardiologist. And when I walked in, she punched a button and printed out a report. And we sat down and started talking. And she said, well, Paul, there's something here I don't understand. She said, a few weeks ago, you had extreme heart problems. When I had been in the hospital, I had a urinary tract infection. It got in my bloodstream, which affected one of the valves in my heart. They wanted to replace it, but the surgery team said that I wasn't strong enough physically to survive the operation. She said, a few weeks ago, you had an extreme heart problem. And now I had just finished a 30-day thing where I had to have sensors all over me and carry a telephone around 24 hours a day, and kept sending information back to the lab so they could tell everything that my heart was doing or not doing. She said, there's nothing wrong with your heart now.
Come on, Jesus.
I don't understand that. What did you do different? And I told her the same thing I told my other doctor. She stuttered and stammered around and says, well, we can't talk about that. And she turned the computer monitor where I couldn't see it. But the point is, God performed 2 miracles on me.
Yeah.
That are the same kind of miracles that the lady that touched the hem of his garment had.
Yeah.
One was an issue of blood, and that's what she had. And she had the faith that if she could just touch his robe as he walked by,
Mm-hmm.
that she would be healed.
Yeah.
And those doctors knew that I didn't have diabetes any longer, and I didn't have that heart problem.
Yeah.
And they knew they hadn't done anything to correct it. Doctors nowadays are trained to manage pain. You walk into a doctor's office and the first thing they say is, what is your pain level today, right now? They're not trained to make you well.
And you just said my pain level is 0.
Yeah, I'm fine. I don't have a problem.
That's good.
God is so good.
Praise God.
He's so good. And
Yeah.
I think that we have a responsibility to create a space where more of that can happen. More of God breaking into our lives can take place. And we want to open up this space so that people can do that. They can be trained and equipped. How do I see God do miracles in my life and miracles in the lives of the people around me that I love on? That's an incredible opportunity. So
Yeah.
let's dig into what you can do. Want to keep us moving on this conversation. There's some practical things here, and we've got some questions that we don't have to cover that maybe you can have covered, and we can always come back and do a second one if we want to. But we want to give you we want you guys to get to know us a little bit, and we want to answer some of your questions here. So if you back up a little bit down, there's a couple of questions up there that I know we have to cover. So just above that, there we go. So where we're currently at is that when you look on the vision page, there's a section there that says restoration timeline, and I encourage you to have a look at it. We're in phase 1. We've been in phase 1 since about January, and we've been working our way through all of that. We have a nonprofit completely set up, an entity that is it's a church. It's a 501c3 church, and it's set up completely very compliant, all set up so that an outside body has checked our compliance. We take this very seriously, and we want you to be able to know that if you're supporting and engaging with us, that you have what you need. So we've also helped stop the demolition of the buildings, which has been amazing. And we have created a strategy. We've gotten some legal work done. And we've also worked on a historical register listing. So the property went through a consultation. That's the word I'm looking for. So it went through a consultation in April and May. And the consultation led on towards the middle end of May. There was a determination from the State Historic Preservation Officer that the property is it's eligible to be listed in the Arizona and National Registers of Historic Places. So that's a really fantastic thing. It's in the process of being nominated, so it's not there yet. And there's no specific stipulations that we will have to follow if we are to acquire the property that would become complicated or difficult, but we will have the full support of them. But there is a level of responsibility to anybody that tries to pursue this property now that it has been nominated and it was in the process of a nomination and it's been deemed eligible. There's a new responsibility to everyone that has to be followed. And so preservation is necessary, but the stipulation around that for ourselves, we are getting the support of the State Historic Preservation Office that would be really, really wonderful without difficulty. But as you pointed out, we would go above and beyond anyway. So this is not going to be a difficult thing for us. We don't really like to do construction in a half-hearted way. As a family, we like to do things with integrity and above board. So you can expect that would be the case. So you'll also see all the financials broken down there. And you can also see on that page, that PDF document, it goes into the financials a little bit as well. So you can look at that. Is there a question?
Yeah, so there are some questions coming through, and I know we're getting a bit limited on time. So we'll keep our responses fairly brief. So one of the most recent questions is there a minimum bid that has been established for the property?
That's $325,000. And there's a lot of questions that you guys have submitted ahead of time, which is what we've been going over. So I hope this is all answering some of your questions, but we want to help you out with that. So there's a minimum bid of $325,000. So why are we raising $3.6 million right now?
That's the next question.
There's a couple of reasons. There is a pool here that includes a few things. And as you'll notice in phase 1, one of the things involved is to purchase archives. And we have the opportunity to purchase a couple of the largest collections of revival archives in the world. And that would be incredible. One of those is actually the distribution rights for AALN material, all of it. And we would really like to see that come back into our hands so that we can help distribute that effectively and steward that for future generations, but not just to hold on to the past, but to help people learn and grow from those things. And I know many of you over the years have gotten in touch with all of us about this and said, we want to be able to grow from these resources, and we would be able to do that. So there's that. There's purchasing of property. So some of that has been purchased. And then there's this, we're not trying to buy up the whole valley or anything. We just want to be in the community and across the highway on this key piece of property. And so right now we need to do some fundraising, not just for the purchase of the property, because there's going to be an 8% premium that everybody needs to pay. I think that's for the auctioneers or something of that nature. And there's also a tax that would be owed for just this year. Come January, we would be able to be eligible for not paying taxes as a nonprofit, but anybody who purchases, you can't apply until January each year. And so we would need to pay this year's. So there's a few things that we would need to pay for. So we need to have a budget that means that we can go to auction effectively, we can pay the immediate bills. And then once we take the property on, we're not suddenly dead in the water with no money to actually do things like secure the place effectively, clean it up, and prepare it, pay the light bill, all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to need to do some things like that. And so what we've asked specifically for, a couple of really key things. Everybody who gives is going to get their money back if we're not successful. I'll repeat that. If you give, your money's coming back to you if we're not successful at auction. If this money comes to us, all you are going to get is everything you gave minus any transaction fees. So if you don't want any transaction fees, just send us a check. There's details right there. As you pay, you can see it come up, and you can just send us a check instead if you would prefer, and we would send you a check back if not. If you do find that we are successful, then what we're going to do is we would like for that money, and what we're doing for everybody is we're just going to apply that to everything that's most needed moving forward. And the vast majority of that is going to be regenerating this property. But we do need to hire a couple of key people and all the things that are going to be the general use. So we just really appreciate you guys trusting us that if we're coming this far in stewarding this property, that you can trust us that we're doing a great job, and we're going to be giving you guys reports on where all that money's going. It's going to be very transparent. We're going to open up the levels of transparency as soon as we get through this auction, which I'm sure you can understand why we wouldn't be super transparent until we get through that auction. But afterwards, we want to ensure that we're answering your questions about how we're spending finances. And so definitely you can expect that transparency from us.
Yeah, that's right.
So we will need...
For one thing, the federal laws require
exactly
that nonprofit organizations be absolutely 100% transparent
and above board.
And every bit of anybody that has a nonprofit has to have their books available, not just where the IRS can come in and look at them, but Frank Smith down there that lives on the street corner that gave $100 to help, if he wants to see how that was spent, he can walk in and say, I'd like to look at the books.
And you know,
it does happen.
It does. It's really important to us that you know that we're not looking to try and create an environment where we can take your money and then do whatever. Ooh. Well, that's exciting. We got a phone saying hello. So what we've got is a responsibility to your partnership with us. And what we're asking for is founding partners. So what I want to ask you to do is be a founding partner with us. In this key time, we need people to get behind the vision before there is a building that feels exciting to stay in, and see the vision and say, I'm going to give. But this doesn't take a lot of faith, because you're getting your money back if not. And we are definitely doing that. If you want to give a larger donation and you feel like God's putting on your heart something, get in touch with us, because we are happy to be more specific in our designation of your finances, and we can have that conversation. We've got a document that we can sign in agreement with you so that your donation can be used in the way that you are most comfortable with. And we hit those targets that are important to you. It's really important to us that everything's above board.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah.
So in terms of the auction coming up, is there anything else you wanted to? Is there any other?
I don't think so.
Okay, so in terms of the auction that's coming up, there's a couple of questions that we keep getting. One is, what about the back taxes? The back taxes are being taken. They've actually been because it was deeded to the state, as it's called. When it gets deeded to the state, the taxes get wiped, and then they aim to get that money back through the auction process. If they don't get it back, they will still sell it, because the back taxes, as I mentioned, $572,000, so it's $572,162.30. That is the actual amount that was in back taxes. That was wiped clean, but they are keeping in mind that they would like to get that at auction. So they set the bar for $325,000. They aim to try and blow past that and hope to get their back taxes covered, and then they pay everyone out. Whatever's left is, it doesn't actually go to the county, it goes to who had it previously. And so that would be, if there is in excess of the $572,000, then that would go to the previous owner in order to help them with outstanding
I could cover
costs.
the 30 cents right now.
Well, thank you. So we know that there's lots of interest in being able to help, and we want to value your time. We know there's a lot of questions that could be asked. I think that a lot of the questions about us as people and about our organization can be answered on our Who page. Go check that out. You can see our ambassadors, about us individually, and just ask us questions. We don't mind hard questions. Send us an email, fill out that contact form and ask us questions, and know that you are a vital part of our ministry team as a founding partner. And so you give in, you get to join our team. As one of you said to me the other day, I feel like I'm part of the group. I said, you are a part of the group. You know, all of you get to link arms with us at this key time. And we do not do this alone. My great-grandpa did not do this alone. There was 250 people on staff. And this is a huge thing. And yes, there's going to be church life and ministry life and wonderful things happening, and you know, all of that. But first, we need to secure the building, the property, and then we need to actually get it restored, and then we can get it operational, one thing at a time. First, we've saved the buildings from demolition, which is fantastic. We've had that success. Now let's move on to some of these other things. And so there is actually a question about preservation, which I believe that I've answered, but I just wanted to double back and say that we will, I think every one of us have an obligation to preserve these buildings and this property. And we, as an organization, myself as a member of public, are in process of negotiating that nomination with the State Historic Preservation Office so that it can be preserved. And there are plenty of responsibility that comes with that for anybody that takes on the property. We feel as though we are supposed to be, as some other people have put it, they feel that we are the rightful owners. And this isn't because we're the Allen family, maybe so, but God's just put something on our hearts in this season, and we're stepping forward, and we just want to ask you to partner with us and just come with us on the journey. And we don't need much faith from you, because we'll just give you your money back if it doesn't work out. So if you want to partner with us, let's just really believe God for great things. Let's look at what we need to do, and let's all do our part. So there's two questions that I have for you guys. One of them is, what can you give? You know, what is your most generous gift that you can give? Don't go broke. Do things. Yeah, don't do it on credit. Ask God, what is a figure that comes to mind? If it's $5, please give $5, because everybody that gives $5 together that makes a huge difference. And if you feel that you can give 500,000, and that's the number that God gives you, and that's right for you, then give that number, whatever it is, and talk to us, navigate that, any questions that you have. We are going to ask that all of the fundraising be done by the 13th of September. And that means the auction will already be in place, but we will know how much money before we get to the end stages of the auction, which finishes on the 22nd. We will have all of that money cleared into our bank account, because we're going to have to wire the funds directly to the county the day after the auction. If this is not successful, or sorry, if this is successful, then we're going to wire that money immediately. So it's got to be in the bank and good for us to go. So we cannot accept pledges for this. We need to have actual money here right now, and we may be in a position to talk about pledges once we've secured the property and we move forward with more fundraising, because this is the amount that we need for this phase, and this will help us to get started. And I know one of the questions that many of you have asked is, what kind of priority is there? So I think that getting a roof on that tabernacle is really important to us, getting it watertight and preserved. What we have to do, because it is the largest building on the property, is we need to do it in phases so that we can actually make sure that there's different aspects of the property. This is answering another question. We need to think about the different aspects of the property and making sure that as much of it is available to people as we go, and that we make a space for volunteers to come and stay while they help us with other aspects of the property. So we want to get the priority of the tabernacle watertight and safe as quickly as possible, because that is a really special building. But we need to phase out some of the other aspects of the building projects so that we can receive help and do that in a way that makes sense on a logistical standpoint. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah. And I guess the other key question that we're asking everyone in our networks is to ask, if you can give, great. And then can you open up your contact book, and can you ask friends, ask people who know people, in order to bring them into the fold? Because right now we need this message to go as far as possible. And it really is down to us and to everyone, because we want this to be the body making the difference here, not just a few people, but the body actually doing the work and making the difference here to restore and to help this property have a new lease of life. And we're kind of hoping that you will have connections, or you will know people who you can introduce us to, who we can talk to about this. And please do tell them that all donations that go towards this will be refunded if it's not successful. But this also will come under the tax exemption status. So all donations will be tax exempt.
For US donations.
For US donations. So this really is a great opportunity to get involved at the foundational level. So we're excited.
Yeah. And also, one of the things that we really want to do is bring in visiting ministers and other people. We're not looking to become our own ministry where we're only thinking about ourselves being leading this. I know that we've got some things to give away, but there's so many wonderful people out there that God has given a voice, and we want to be a space for people to learn from a variety of people. We'd love to see worship sessions, and we'd love to see prophetic arts, and even as an artist, I'd love to see one of those places be turned into a community arts center for people to come and be creative together in the things of God. And I'd love to see us have a recording studio so that people can come and share what God's speaking to them about. So many different things become possible, but we first need to secure the place. And we just have this much time to do it. But God doesn't really have a problem with time, does he?
I have in a building up in Tucson, or down in Tucson from here, Daddy's desk, the bookcase, the cadenza, all the office furniture that was in Daddy's office.
Mm.
And I would very much like to recreate his office and do it as a place where radio or TV programs can be filmed like this.
Mhm.
Right there, have all the lighting, everything done to where if somebody came in, that I've done lots and lots and lots of TV programs with other people where I go to their place of where they generate their programming, and they say, okay, let's get ready to go, and they turn on the lights and everything lights up, and you'd think you were in a studio in Los Angeles or something.
It'd be good to do that so that it's all ready to go, isn't it?
Yeah.
And have Daddy's desk, everything there, including the archive type things that were given to him in the Philippines, which includes spears, bow and arrows, where the arrows are made out of bamboo. They're
Fascinating.
They're not as big as my finger. And they're just as straight as an arrow, no pun intended. But it's little bamboo and tips on that they use to
do terrible things.
Do things other than hunt birds with them to make feathers for their hats.
So there's a side of this that is about what God's doing now, and there's also a place for we want to bring in. It could very well be in the tune of somewhere between 30 and 50,000 square foot. That would be a separate building on the property that could be specifically for all of these archive resources, so people could come to a library and write that book that's been on their heart and study and learn and pull open the archives and have a look at stuff and be able to walk amongst what God has done, because actually 3/4 of our population of the world is visual and hands-on learners. And when you're that tactile person that likes to feel things, a book is not going to do it for you. You need to actually walk amongst what God has done and be able to see it for yourself, to be able to have that moment. I know so many of you have wanted to go visit Miracle Valley, and we'd love to invite you to come and help us to do the restoration. And we're going to need everybody. But right now, we just need you to ask God, what can you give? If it's $5, please do it. If it's 500,000, whatever it is, each of us can give what God's given in our hearts to give. Do that now, today, if you can. And then also ask your friends. And if you feel that you're in a position where people that can give and you want to start a fundraiser, go onto our website, click on fundraise. And so miraclevalleyOasisCenter.org, go onto fundraise. And that we've actually got it set up there so you can start your own fundraiser. You just click the button and fill out a couple of details, and then it'll give you a link to share on all of your places, email, text message, social media. You can just share it and you can raise funds, and all of those funds will go directly to what we're doing and for the same purpose. So it will come with all the same stipulations that we use the funds and we give them back if we don't reach that goal. So we would really appreciate you give what you can and ask other people. Get in to your contact list and see, who can I tell? What can I give?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Can we just say thank you so much for spending this time with us? If you feel like there's any questions that you have not had asked, please know this is not a secret. Share. But this is not a private forum you are on here. We are doing our best to spread the net as far as possible. If you have our contact details, don't be afraid to give them away. Spread what we're doing, and know that we are in accountability, and we are a good, sizable team that is ready to really act as soon as we can. I know, everyone here is ready for a nap. It's been a long day. And we just really appreciate you taking time with us. And so thank you for your support and for your prayers. Please be praying with us. Please be asking your friends to support And this is the moment. We're not asking for charity. We're asking you to partner with something that God is doing that is super exciting. So we're excited, and we'll be able to keep telling you what's going on. So do get on that email list, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll keep on sharing what God's doing as we go. We appreciate all of you so much. So go share, and even share this if you want. We'll talk to you soon. We love you all very much and appreciate you very much.
God bless.
Bless
God
you.
bless. Bye bye.